Welcome to the Global Discussion, discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name's Simon Hodgkins. Today, I'm joined by Tim Brown. Tim, you're very welcome to the podcast. Let's begin by asking you to introduce yourself to our international audience. So over to you, Tim.
Thank you very much, Simon. I appreciate being here, and I'm excited about the opportunity. And to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm Tim Brown, and I am the son of a military veteran, and I myself am a veteran as well, married with two children, which are no longer kids anymore. We actually have a 7-year-old grandson who's a joy and a blast to be around, very lively individual. But I come from a background that is very non-traditional in the sense of a career, as people would call it. The work that I've done has been the result of people that I've known. If I had 10 different jobs, 8 of them were because someone knew me and they invited me to come along on the journey with them to work where they were, to be a part of a business venture that they may have established. So I've been a mortgage broker, done video production, but I do also premarital counseling for couples and work with people when it comes to figuring out how to navigate their relationships a lot better. And that's something that I really enjoy doing. And my wife and I actually do that together at times, where we jointly work with couples to help them figure out how to make things work a little more smoothly in their relationships. But I worked at the CDC for several years. So that was a really great adventure to be able to experience working at the CDC. And when I wrap it all up, I think about the fact that I'm someone that really enjoys the idea of being able to support other people on their journey to be successful in life. And I don't think I would say very few things give me more joy than being able to support someone else on their journey to become successful, finding their way. And if they do figure it out where they want to go, then to be able to help them understand how to get there. So I would say that's who I am in a nutshell.
Well, thank you, Tim. That's a great introduction and some great context to people watching and listening to us around the world. But I wanted to talk about communication, because obviously a lot of what you do today is around communication. And I know you're involved in something around confident but effective communication, and the benefits, the challenges, and the opportunities with that. So could you maybe tell our audience a little bit about what you do in that space, because you're very active in that space. You're regularly talking to groups of people about this. You're using social media to help you connect with communities around the world. Could you maybe unpack that a little bit for us, Tim?
Absolutely. What I do with confident speaking is it's a space on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. And I've been doing that for 16 months now. And what we do in that space is allow people to have an opportunity or an environment that they can feel comfortable in, that they can feel safe, as a lot of people often say, to come in and practice developing their ability to communicate and do it more effectively. And a lot of people are terrified of speaking in front of other people. Public speaking is one of those that ranks up in the top 3 of what people are afraid of. They'd rather jump off of a cliff with no parachute than have to stand in front of an audience of people and make a presentation. However, with confident speaking, it isn't just about public speaking. That's part of it. But our goal with the confident speaking space is to help people become more confident and effective communicators in life. No matter what environment they're in, we want them to feel comfortable enough to share their information, to express their feelings, their thoughts, to be confident and comfortable with their expertise. Everyone is brilliant at something, and sometimes you need an opportunity for people to help you understand just how great you really are. And in the confident speaking space, we have an open mic where people are able to join in, share their opinions and perceptions, experiences about the topics that we have, which range from how to build trust as a leader, how to identify red flags in relationships. We cover the gamut of different types of topics in the space so that people have a well-rounded idea and understanding of just communicating and not just speaking in front of a crowd.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And I know the communication aspects to it, because you do speak as well about how to some degree we've lost that sort of practice of effective communication. And whether you're in the military, communication is key. Whether you're talking to the grandkids, communication is key. But I know, as well as relationships and helping people who maybe aren't confident at public speaking, and as you say, finding that safe space where they can come and learn and understand and speak. But it moves you as well into the business world, doesn't it? Because a lot of businesses are struggling with effective communication, whether they're, the solo entrepreneur, the person who's got their first business off the ground, or they're a small business entity, they're a going concern, or even some of the large organizations and some people in it where communication maybe needs a little improvement. So
Yes.
what are you doing in that space? Because you're talking to a broad community of people about communication, aren't you?
Yes, I am. It's an international community. We have people from a number of countries that join and participate. We have a lot of non-native English speakers that come and participate in the space and are part of the community that we have. And to your question about what we're doing when it comes to the business owners, the small business owners, entrepreneurs, or even in the corporate environment, is that reaching people on an individual level to help them understand themselves, to believe in themselves as a person, as an individual, I think is just as significant as teaching them to manage themselves as an executive. It begins with you yourself, no matter what level you're on. So if you can understand how to trust yourself, understand the importance of educating and informing yourself, understanding that it's okay to make mistakes, that you don't have to prove yourself to people that you belong. It starts with you believing that you belong where you are because you have done the work, you've prepared yourself. And sometimes we have to figure it out when we get there. But the most important aspect is to show up and not be afraid to speak up when the time comes. And that's what we encourage people to do is that confidence and belief in themselves. Everything else they can learn. But if they don't trust themselves enough and have the confidence to at least show up and say, I'm here, I'm ready to take the chance, I'm willing to make the mistakes so that I can make progress, because we always say that we don't focus on progress. We don't focus on perfection. We focus on progress. So as long as you're willing to make the mistakes, you're going to have the opportunity to succeed. And that goes anywhere, whether it's in the boardroom, whether it's an entrepreneur with their own business, whether you're a physician, you're on the front line working, it's across the board. And that's why we say that it's about confident and effective communication in any environment.
I love that, Tim. You've dropped some real gems, some nuggets of information there. And yeah, you've got to show up, but there's a bit about preparation. And I think you're touching on something really important there, which is that internal confidence, and that maybe that little bit of building that you have to do initially.
Yes.
So yeah, that's great. Now, how did you get into this space? This sort of confident, effective communication space. Was it born out of the military? Was it something that you just had a passion for? How did you end up doing the kind of things that you do today?
It's a journey that comes from a lot of life experiences, and I've seen a lot, done a lot, like most people have. And somewhere along the line, once I discovered that spaces existed, I participated in them, but I wasn't hosting any spaces myself. And I'm a big proponent of being able to help other people succeed. And when I'm not doing something that I feel is contributing to someone else's success, life feels stagnant for me. I don't feel fulfilled the way that I want to and need to. So as I realized that there were a lot of conversations going on in spaces, I met a lot of fantastic people, again, from around the world. And I would just share insight in different spaces. If I hear something, I would share my thoughts and perspectives, never tried to give anything prescriptive to people as if my way was the only way, but just another consideration. And I decided that spaces could be something that I could do. And I was trying to figure out what could I talk about in spaces that was different, that was a little bit unique on some level. Because a lot of people talk about crypto, they talk about sports, They talk about wellness, mental health, and I didn't want to do that. And I was talking with my wife, trying to figure out what could I talk about in spaces that could be sustainable and not be overwhelming, trying to figure out what conversations could be about. And she said, you know what? I think you could do good helping people overcome their fear of public speaking. So I thought about it and I was thinking, you know what, that's a pretty good idea. So I started doing spaces with someone at the time. That wasn't the original topic that we did, but I went back after a couple of weeks and I thought about it again. She said, I told you, public speaking would be it. And I decided to do it. So I took a chance, and I didn't want to call it public speaking because most people won't ever do a public speaking event in their lives. The average person, they won't have to speak in front of a crowd. So I wanted it to be something that was broad enough to incorporate public speaking, but also help them learn how to navigate life in general. Because no matter what you do in life, no matter what your career choice is, no matter how many relationships you have, even if you work alone, you still have to communicate with people at some point in time. So confident speaking, it incorporated the idea of developing your confidence and also learning how to speak effectively in your lifetime. Because I remember an article where they said Warren Buffett spoke to a group of graduates at a commencement ceremony, and he told them that if you learn how to speak well and to communicate effectively, you can increase your earning potential by 50%, I believe it was. So that's where it was born from. My wife gave me the idea to talk about speaking. And from that, I've been doing it for 16 months now and just making it available every Saturday morning. I think I may have missed 2 or 3 in the last 16 months. So it's really a passion for me that I have to be there. And like I said, you just have to show up. And sometimes our showing up isn't for our benefit, it's for the benefit of others. And that's why I'm so committed to it.
I like that a lot, Tim. Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned Warren Buffett there, who, in his own way, I mean, he's very well known in the investing and financial worlds, obviously, for who he is. But he has a particular way of communicating, which is, I would say, very clear and very effective himself. And it kind of brings me nicely onto something I wanted to tease out, which is about people that you do admire or people that have inspired you on this journey. When I ask you that question, what springs to mind?
What springs to mind for me, it's my dad. My dad springs to mind when I think about that question. As I've watched the way he lives his life, I've watched the people that admire him, in the hometown where he's from. Everyone knows him. They call him Jay, and everyone knows my dad. And he's always excelled at what he does. Like I said, he was military. So he was enlisted initially. And at some point in time during his career, he became an officer. So he retired from the military. He ended up as a captain or a major, but that's after he spent several years as an enlisted person. And just watching his consistency in life, his commitment to family, the way that he interacts with people. And I remember him telling me years ago that if you take care of your people, they will take care of you. And I always remember that. So no matter what I'm doing, I always make it a point to look out for the people that are either working for me, with me, or beside me, because I understand how impactful that can be. And as a leader, which some of them miss the opportunity to take care of the people the way that they can, when you take care of your people, there's almost nothing they won't do for you if you need it. And that's what has really inspired me when I think about who has impacted me the most. And I will have to say that it's my dad.
Well, thanks, Tim, and thanks for sharing that. That's a wonderful story. And you bring me nicely on to talking about advice, because obviously you're sharing advice with people every week, as you say, for the last year and a half and more. So when it comes to advice, is there any sort of advice you could share with our audience about being a more confident or a more effective communicator, or maybe just more general, more sort of life advice in general in terms of being a better person? So is there any sort of advice that you could maybe share with us here today?
Sure. Some things that I would say that could be beneficial for listeners in terms of becoming more confident, whether it's speaking or life in general. I would first say is to be intentional. You have to be very intentional about what it is you want to do, what you say you want to do. It's easy to say, I want to be better at something or that I want to do something, but unless you have intent and you make the commitment to actually be great at what you're doing, it won't happen. It's a dream that lives in your mind that you fantasize about the possibilities and the potential outcomes, but you never realize it because you aren't intentional enough to do the work. Because it takes work to get where you want to be successful at anything, successful in business, successful as an educator, successful in marriage. It all takes work and you have to be intentional. That's the first thing that I would say. And when it comes to speaking and even interacting with people, I like the idea of conciseness, learning to be concise. That's one of our focal points in the space, is that you won't always have a lot of time to say everything that you want to say. Use television commercials as great examples. Any type of advertising, they have learned to refine their thoughts to present a very strong message in a short period of time, which shows respect for other people's time. And it shows that you have taken time to be very thoughtful about what it is that you want to say and that you clearly understand your message. So learning to be concise in your interactions and communication with people is something that I say is good to do as well. And lastly, I would say is to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who else will? Why should I believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? And when you believe in yourself, that confidence projects. And I often tell people in the space, you don't even have to be telling the truth or giving real facts. If you show confidence that you believe it, people will trust what you say. And not that I condone lying. I make sure I tell them, I don't want you to lie to people. Be honest. If you don't know, say you don't know, and that, I'll figure it out and I'll get back with you with a better response later. But it's believing in yourself, because when you believe in yourself, you have the mindset that there's nothing you can't do, and you're at least willing to try it. And many times we will surprise ourselves. Athletes get to learn that all the time when the coaches push them to the point that they might be, their body is reacting in a way that they didn't expect. And they realize that, you know what? I was so tired 10 minutes ago, but I realized that when the coach pushed me a little bit more, there was more that I had to offer. And we ourselves, no matter what environment we're in, we have so much to offer, and people need to believe in that. And one of the ways I encourage them to figure that out is to write down your successes, write down your wins so that you have a track record to be able to reflect on. Confidence grows as a result of a track record of successes. So the more we accomplish, the more we begin to believe that we can accomplish more. And that's why I encourage them to write it down. I have a journal that I've been writing in since 1998. So I have things that I can go back and look at from 25 years ago. Some days I might just pull it out and just read through some entries that I made. And it's like, wow, I remember that now. And it's phenomenal to be able to see how life has transitioned and life has progressed. And I'm a believer, I'm a Christian myself. So for me, I get to celebrate how well God has taken care of me through the years. And that's what I would say. So be intentional, learn to be concise, which is refining your thoughts. And a lot of people don't realize that your conciseness creates more interest, because you don't give away too much. You give away enough information that informs, but it also leaves people to be curious about you, where they may actually want to know more. And then to lastly, believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself.
Great information. Thank you so much, Tim. I think, being intentional, being concise, there's certainly a lot of lessons in that. That self-belief that you mentioned, I think, is so important. And as you were talking about that journal and building up the sort of successes that you can look back on,
Yes.
to give you that confidence, it reminded me of that, the best time to plant a tree was 20, 30 years ago. The second
Right.
best time is now. And it reminded me of that, because I was kind of going, I can't pull out a journal with all that great stuff I've done. So maybe I should just start today because I don't have that, but you can pull that out and look back at that, and I
Yes,
think that's such a useful tool. So thank you for sharing that, in terms of the intention, in terms of the being concise in your messaging, and also that self-belief. So important. So thanks for
yes,
sharing that wisdom with us today, Tim.
absolutely.
So look, as we move forward and we look at the next sort of year ahead or more, are you looking to build more of your community? Are you looking to reach more people with the effective communication and this sort of public speaking type help that you can help with? Or what's on your radar for the next year?
On my radar, I am definitely looking to expand the community. I wanted to get more engaged, internationally and just with the people that have been supporting the community. And I want to make more resources available to help people do what it is we talk about in the space. So I'm in the process of establishing a website to set it up so that there will be resources and tools that people are able to practice even when they aren't in the space. I just need people to be thinking about the intentional aspect of developing themselves, becoming more competent and effective communicators in any environment in life. Because when they believe that they can, they will show up and it will resonate that they can. So I'm looking to build that and expand it so that there's more opportunities to grow. Some people can't make it on Saturdays. They can listen to the replays. We're going to have recordings available for them to get to, even though right now they can always go to my profile and listen to some of the spaces that have been recorded, because I record them all, because there's a lot of great information and information that people share during the space. All of the community members that come up, they share great experiences. But building that out is something that I want to do. And I'm also working on telling my story, the journey to becoming who I am, so that people have an additional perspective and insight about me and how I've become the person that I am. And it has been a fun journey, an interesting journey, but that's what I'm looking to do. Right now, my biggest priority is expanding the community and providing more resources for people to be able to continue becoming more confident and effective communicators.
Well, that sounds wonderful. It sounds like an exciting time ahead. And look, before we run out of time, I want to ask you a couple of quick things. Number one is there anything that we haven't touched on today that you think is important to share with our worldwide audience? Or maybe it's just something that we have touched on that you'd like to maybe expand upon. And secondly, Tim, if people want to reach out and connect with you about this topic that we've talked about today, where would you like to send people to or point people to so they can reach out and connect with you?
So, to the first question, what would I say to people that they probably would want to hang on to, just as last thoughts? I would say that in everything that we do, we talk about is the practice. In addition to being intentional, it's practice. You have to be committed again to doing the work. I always tell the people in the space, I continue to practice. I've been teaching, I've done counseling, I've spoken, and I've done that for 20 years. And I still practice on a regular basis. Any opportunity I get to practice, I do it, because we never want to stop growing. There's always opportunity to refine ourselves to make sure that what we already do well, we don't lose the edge. And I use the example of professional athletes. Even though they've reached the pinnacle of their profession, they still have coaches. They still practice on a regular basis. So we never arrive to a point that we just have shown up and now I'm here. I'm great. I'm excellent. There's no more work for me to do. I just show up and everything works well. And it isn't like that. We have to practice. And there's that saying that if you don't use it, you lose it. And sometimes we don't have the opportunity to practice in a real environment to actually apply the skills that we have. So we have to make sure that we continuously practice to refine and maintain what it is that we have the ability to do. That's really important. Always practice. And I would say also, in addition to the confident speaking aspect of it, is to develop the mindset of being a problem solver. If you become a problem solver that has the ability to communicate confidently and effectively, there's no limits to what you can do. People will look for you to give you opportunities because they understand you know how to solve problems. And that has been very much a big part of my life, that no matter where I am, I pride myself on being one of the people that everyone will look to for answers and guidance. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, which is something else we talk about. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, Simon, in our space, we always have a portion of the space that is very intentional, where we do challenges. And similar to what Toastmasters does, they do their table topics. That's what they call theirs, table topics that they do from time to time. But we do it each week in our space. And we'll ask who wants to do a challenge. And I love to see the excitement of people raising their hands to come up and do a challenge, because they're either going to be asked a question that they have no time to prepare for, or they're going to be given a random topic such as golf. And this lady named Tina, she gave a beautiful response to golf, which she knew nothing about, but it's an opportunity to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So if you're willing to accept the risks of making yourself look bad or making mistakes in moments like that, when it's time to perform and you've had the opportunity to prepare, there's no way anyone can hold you back, and you shine like a shining star in any environment. And that's what we do in the space. So becoming a problem solver and making sure that you practice when you decide you want to do something. So you have to really go after it. And people can find me right now. The easiest way and where I'm most active is on X, Twitter. And my profile is at Simply Tim TV. That's my profile on Twitter. And that's where I spend most of the time. I figure, we're doing the social audio there, and I try to minimize the amount of effort people have to make to find me or to interact with what it is that I'm doing. However, there will be the website, which is confidentspeaking.us, that's available for people to visit now. And that's also on my profile page on Twitter, but that's coming as well. But at Simply Tim TV is the easiest way to find me. And pretty much every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, I'll be there.
Well, there's a great invitation to everybody. I can see the T-shirts immediately, the Tim Brown T-shirts. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's a winning formula. And look, make sure that you join Tim on his weekly discussion. It surely is insightful, and you can pick up some great information there and be part of that community that's kind of growing together around the world. But look, it brings us nicely, Tim, to the end of our episode today here on the Global Discussion. So thanks to Tim. Thanks for everybody who's watching or listening to us around the world. Make sure that you like or follow or subscribe and do everything that I need you to do to help support this podcast. Of course, go and check out at Simply Tim TV and everything that he's doing there, with a new website to come very, very soon. And look, I hope you'll join me back here for some more conversations with people like Tim, creatives and leaders and thinkers. So thank you, Tim. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you again today.
Thank you, Simon. I have absolutely enjoyed it, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that and share some thoughts with your global audience.